She climbed the steps slowly. She was only 22 years old. She wore a white dress, her hair pulled back. A silent crowd surrounded her, and at the top of the stairway, the blade awaited her. It was September 11th, 1599, in Rome, and Beatrice Cenci, young noble, beautiful, was about to lose her head. But why? For being too beautiful, for being a woman, or for daring to defy a monster. This is not a story of war, nor one of politics. It is a story of power of silence, and of a woman who paid with her blood for being born into the wrong house. Beatrice was not merely the victim of a sentence. She was the portrait of injustice in her time. And what you are about to hear is as real as it is cruel. To understand this execution, we must return to the beginning, to the Cenci mansion, one of Rome's wealthiest and most influential families, a palace that concealed horror behind its marble facades, and to a father named Francesco, a man feared even by his own servants. Francesco Cenci was not merely wealthy, he was powerful. He controlled fortunes, lands, titles. But something was rotten in that family. Something the neighbors whispered about. Something the servants knew, but dared not speak aloud. Francesco had an obsession, and that obsession had a name, Beatrice, his own daughter. Born in 1577 in a Rome where being a woman was already a condemnation, Beatrice faced a harsher fate. Being a woman and beautiful far worse. Being a woman beautiful and the daughter of Francesco Cenci, a curse. For Francesco did not see Beatrice as a daughter, he saw her as a possession, a piece of property, and he treated her as such. Beatrice's early years unfolded in a gilded prison. She grew up surrounded by silks and jewels, but without freedom. Francesco kept her isolated in the palace, hidden from the world's eyes. Why, he knew her beauty would attract suitors, and Francesco refused to share Beatrice with anyone. Not anyone. At 15, the situation grew unbearable. Francesco's interest turned sinister far beyond paternal. He would enter her chambers without warning, watch her as she dressed, make comments about her body that left Beatrice terrified. And when she tried to resist, to protest, Francesco's absolute authority silenced her. What was happening in that house? Servants spoke of screams echoing from Beatrice's chambers at night, of locked doors, of constant tears, of a young woman losing her sanity. Francesco had made his own daughter a prisoner in her home. Beatrice sought help. She wrote secret letters to relatives, begged servants to smuggle messages beyond the palace walls. But who would believe a young woman against one of Rome's most powerful men, who Francesco held sway in the Vatican, wielded enough wealth to buy silence, and the law stood firmly on his side? After all, he was the patriarch. Beatrice was merely his daughter. The nightmare deepened when Francesco decided Beatrice should marry, not to a man of her choosing, but to someone he could control, someone who would not question the strange conditions of such a union. He wanted to keep Beatrice close, even after marriage, to maintain his hold over her. Then Beatrice met Olimpio Calvetti, a young soldier at the family's castle. Olimpio was different, gentle, respectful, genuinely caring. For the first time in years, Beatrice felt hope. Someone saw her as a person, not an object. Their romance was secret but fierce. They met in shadowed corridors, exchanged hidden letters, dreamed of a future far from that prison. Olympio vowed to take Beatrice away to shield her from Francesco. But Francesco discovered their love. His reaction was explosive. He dismissed Olympio at once, confined Beatrice to her chambers, tightened his surveillance. Worse, he began punishing her in ways that drove her to utter despair. Beatrice realized she would never be free, not while Francesco lived. That was when the plan took shape. Beatrice, alongside her stepmother Lucrezia and her brother Giacomo, began plotting against Francesco. It was no longer just about freedom, it was about survival. Francesco was destroying the entire family, and they knew the torment would only worsen. The plan was simple, yet perilous. During a trip to the family's rural castle, they would hire assassins to kill Francesco, staging it as an accident, a fall from a balcony in the night. Surely no one would probe too deeply into the death of such a despised man, would they? September 1598. The Cenci family was at Petrella Castle, far from Rome, the perfect opportunity. That night, two men slipped into Francesco's room. He tried to scream, but was swiftly silenced. Within minutes, Francesco Cenci was dead. The tyrant who had terrorized his family for decades had finally met his end. But here lies the problem. Francesco Cenci had enemies across Rome, debts, disputes, political feuds. Anyone could have wanted him dead. So why did suspicion fall immediately on the family? Why was Beatrice the primary suspect? The answer is simple and cruel. Because she was a woman, because she was beautiful, and because Pope Clement VIII needed an example. Rome teemed with powerful families who believed themselves above the law. The Pope resolved to show that no one, not even a beautiful young noblewoman, could commit a crime and escape unpunished. The investigation was a sham. Interrogators tortured servants until they parroted the desired confessions. By the time they reached Beatrice, her guilt was already decided. She was imprisoned with her family languishing for months in damp, dark cells, awaiting a trial whose outcome was preordained. The Pope had decreed the Cenci family would be an example for all of Rome. They would all face execution. But why did Beatrice, above all, become the center of attention? Why did posters of the time bear her face? Why did Rome speak of her beauty before her alleged crimes? The answer is chilling. Her beauty was troubling. In a society ruled by old, powerful men, a beautiful young woman who defied paternal authority was not just a criminal, she was a threat. The trial was pure theater. Beatrice tried to defend herself, recounting years of suffering, detailing the abuse she endured at Francesco's hands. But it was futile. The judges cared nothing for Francesco's atrocities. They sought only to confirm Beatrice's guilt. When the sentence was read, Rome reeled not from Beatrice's guilt, but from the punishment's cruelty. A 22-year-old woman publicly beheaded, her brother Giacomo tortured before his execution. Only the youngest son was spared too young to condemn. In the days before the execution, something extraordinary stirred in Rome. Nobles, merchants, even clerics pleaded for mercy. They argued because Beatrice was too young, had suffered enough that the punishment far outweighed the crime. But Pope Clement VIII stood firm. Beatrice Cenci would be his example, and nothing would sway him. Her growing popularity only hardened his resolve. He could not allow a criminal to become a heroine. September 11th, 1599. The Ponte Sant'Angelo brimmed with thousands gathered to witness Beatrice Cenci's execution. Some came out of morbid curiosity, others out of compassion. Many clung to hope that a papal pardon might arrive at the last moment. Beatrice appeared dressed in white like a bride. Her hair was pulled back, her face serene. She did not cry, did not beg. She walked with a dignity that stunned even her executioners. At the scaffold, she whispered a silent prayer and knelt. The executioner hesitated. They say his hands trembled. To kill such a beautiful young woman, one who had endured so much, felt wrong even to a man hardened by death. But the orders were absolute. With a swift motion, the blade fell. Beatrice Cenci was dead. The crowd stood silent. No cheers erupted, as was common at executions, only a heavy silence, as if all of Rome knew they had witnessed a grave injustice. In the days that followed, flowers appeared mysteriously at the execution site. The people had made Beatrice a martyr. Yet the question lingers, was Beatrice truly guilty? Did she take part in the plan to kill Francesco? Or was she merely a convenient scapegoat for a system craving a victim? The evidence is murky. The testimonies coerced under torture, the political pressure immense. What is certain is that Francesco Cenci was a monster. Historical records confirm his cruelty, his abuse, his perverse obsession with his daughter. If Beatrice played a role in his death, it was self-defense. If she did not, she died unjustly accused. Beatrice Cenci's story spread across Europe. Poets immortalized her painters, captured her tragic beauty. Writers wove her life into legend. She became a symbol of resistance against oppression, of feminine defiance against patriarchy, of the injustice of unchecked power. But the true tragedy is not her death alone. It is this: more than 400 years later, stories like Beatrice's persist. Women are still punished for their beauty, silenced by misogynistic systems, forced to pay with their lives for daring to defy powerful men. Beatrice Cenci died at 22. Her beauty was her curse, her courage her crime. Her youth was squandered by men who saw women as mere prey. She was beheaded not for guilt, but for inconvenience, not as a criminal, but as a woman too free for her time. The blade that severed her head that September day also shattered an era's innocence. Rome learned that even the purest beauty, the brightest youth, could be crushed by power's cruelty. And we, 4 centuries later, still remember Beatrice, not as the criminal they branded her, but as the victim she always was. Her death was not justice. It was a stark reminder that for women, society too often turns victims into villains. Beatrice Cenci paid with her life for being born beautiful in a time when that alone was crime enough.